Good morning, everyone. And so glad to have you on our call, our Avini team call that we do every week. And I love the support that we have available for all of us. Something going on pretty much every single day, Monday through Friday at this time. We have a phone number that we can use, and that's a conference call. And then every Saturday, we have a Zoom call. And it's fun to grow. When I'm green, I'm growing, but when I'm ripe, I'll soon be rotten. So, boy, stay in growth. I'm so thankful for an opportunity to have such a wonderful growth environment. And speaking about growth, one of the things that I've always been fascinated from the first time I saw this idea of what we could call reproductive residual income, this fundamental idea of not just teaching people how to fish, but teaching people how to teach other people how to fish. And I love this idea, and we've all heard this if you have not done it before, where you take a penny and you double it every day for 30 days, and what could happen, and what could that amount to? And if you're kind of thinking in your head, let's see, 30 days, double a penny, could it really amount to much? And you kind of affirm that it wouldn't be too much because you go, one penny, two penny, four penny, eight penny, 16, 32, 64. That's a week. That's a week end of the month. And I don't think that's even $2. And I think, wow. But by the time you keep doing that at the end of the month, it's millions of dollars. It's just amazing, this power of compounding, and that you can actually do that with people. If you have a powerful idea whose time has come, share that idea with enough people so that they in turn start sharing it. And I believe we've hit a turning point in this business. It's been wonderful this year and a half that we've been around, but it's catching on. People are hearing about this and momentum is building. And I'll just go on record. I think we're going to be probably triple the size we are the same time next year. 1 year from now, I'll just make this idea that we're going to be triple, maybe more. Now, if your business is still in pennies, where you've got you and maybe a couple of people, and you're still going 1 penny, 2 penny, 4 penny, that'll be good. You'll be a 3 penny business, or maybe you've got 3 people already and you'll be a 9 penny business. But what if you had right at this moment 50 people? A year from now, you'd have 150 people. Or what if you had 1,000 people? It's just kind of fun to think about. The math is the same. You look at a chart where it's going 1 to 30 days. All along, it's 1 penny, 2 penny, but it gets more and starts compounding. But all along there, nothing changes. The math is the same all the way along. And the math is really good when you're in a business like this with products that are absolutely amazing. And what's really exciting, it's not an experiment. It's already been tried and tested again and again and replicated. And so my very favorite product, based on a new trademark, clenoptilolite, that's called detoxilite because it's been so finely altered and refined and perfected. Wow, detoxilite. And that has been around for 20 years. It's helped, I can't imagine how many thousands of people. And yet, on the other hand, you say the most basic things like zeolite. I would say in conversation with people, I would think probably 80% of the people have never heard of zeolite. But if you catch their curiosity and go more into it, then you start looking up and it's everywhere. And then you learn new words. Clenoptilolite, doesn't that roll off the tongue? And after a while, you can even spell it. In fact, should have that all set up. But this is a sample of clenoptilolite. Isn't it pretty? And if you Google clenoptilolite, you'll actually see just really beautiful, gorgeous rocks. Now, one of the things I think is really interesting about clenoptilolite, when you look it up, just these beautiful colors. And if you're into minerals, I've got some friends that are really into that, and they've got some beautiful specimens. And the most beautiful they are ones that you're actually not supposed to even touch, because those beautiful colors are minerals. And a lot of those are heavy minerals, heavy metals that are toxic. And so just touching that rock, you can enter into the skin and be bad. And those beautiful colors have a lot of practical application over thousands of years as pigments. If you're an oil painter, or sadly, if you're buying lipstick or eyeshadow or different things like that, it's very possible that they're full of heavy metals, and you're not even supposed to pick up a rock while you're rubbing that onto your lips. Maybe it's got arsenic in it or something like that. And if you're into oil paintings and some of those colors they talk about, maybe cobalt blue might not be quite so bad as some of the other things like arsenic or lead or things like that. But it's something. But one of the things I think is really fascinating is what we have here. So zeolite, and particularly clinoptilolite, it's just this most interesting thing. And if you haven't heard about this before, zeolite was discovered and named hundreds of years ago by some guy that put two Greek words together, zeo and light or lith, and it's essentially boiling stone or boiling rock. And why did they call it that? Well, he had some of this rock ground up into rock dust, and so here's this dry powder, and he heated it, and steam poured out of it. Where did that moisture come from? And what they found is on a real tiny crystalline level, clinoptilolite has this wondrous connection of small crystal cages, and they're little sponges, and they actually are used as desiccant. So if you look up that kind of stuff that's in the little bags and stuff, that's a form of zeolite. It loves everything, including just moisture. But what's scary is the shape and size of these little crystal cages gives them a unique power that they love bad things, particularly heavy metals, and they suck those in, and that maybe is why we have this brilliant color in various types of clinoptilolite. So do look that up. Google clinoptilolite samples and just look at these gorgeous rocks. One of the things, it's not pure because it has these colors, but what's fascinating is just this huge affinity. And so the wind and the rain and just natural things moving pollution around, this picks it up. And it's a major part of the Earth's crust, and it sucks things up. Where did it come from? Clinoptilolite in particular, and zeolites in the larger category, are made by volcanoes. When the lava or the ash interacts with ocean water, and over millions of years, these really unique crystal structures are created. Now, to go into the history of this, Rik Deitsch, one of the foremost biochemists in the world of creating supplements and pharmaceuticals, was studying this amazing product. And this is something, if you look it up, get on Amazon, you're going to find powders and capsules and things that if you take them, it goes into your body, moves through the digestive tract, and cleans out bad stuff. That's a really, really good thing to do. And bentonite was in a product that I used in the 1980s that essentially went through and helped you pull out heavy metals out of your body. We can go into that a little bit. But the thing I think is really significant is Rik was doing some studies and found where they had actually taken clinoptilolite, put it into a dust, and mixed it with water into a solution or a suspension, and gave it IV to dogs, and some really cool things happened. And they just got thinking, wow, how could we get that systemic without doing IVs? And the whole answer would be to reduce these crystals. They're microscopic anyway, but if you could make the particle size average under 1 micron, it would just naturally go systemic. And so this is the latest iteration of it. It's called Cell Defender. And it's just really awesome. You just go like this and just kind of let it linger there. Almost no taste. Maybe if you put a piece of granite or something into a glass of water and let it set, and then you taste it and think, it has kind of a little minerally taste. That's essentially what this is, rock juice. And all of these particles are small enough that it'll just enter the bloodstream. And this has actually been proven clinically, where you take this, and what happens is it goes all up and down, grabbing these heavy metals, and it comes out through urinary excretion, which is proof that it's systemic. Essentially, graphically, we could say before Rik Deitsch, if you took a clinoptilolite or zeolite, you pooped it out. With Rik's, it's systemic and you pee it out. And what's the difference with that? In my mind, I think, let's say you're doing some spring cleaning and going through the yard, picking up trash, getting stuff out of the house, and you take it out to your pickup truck and drive it down to the dump. That's a good thing. But imagine if your body was this huge subdivision and every house was a cell, and these cells they're contaminated because of the world that we live in. Everybody has heard of heavy metals and toxins and all of this bad stuff, body burden. Well, what, instead of having to get your pickup and drive down to the dump, the garbage truck came up and down every street. But imagine, because of this strong electrical attraction of zeolite to these heavy metals, when the truck gets close to your house, it jumps, all the garbage jumps out of the house into the truck and goes on down. It's just the most elegant, wonderful product. And what's the significance of that? I really believe, and if you look this up with your computer, think of anything bad that you don't want to have, type that in, and then put a space, and then put heavy metals, and you're going to find an alarming correlation. Fundamentally, I believe that if all of your cells were healthy, you could not be sick. And so how do you have healthy cells? And let's just carry that out. All of these problems that you don't want to have, essentially, you could describe them as cellular malfunction of different forms. Like a particular name of something bad could be malfunctioning cells in a particular body system or an organ or whatever. But if all of those cells were healthy, everything would be fine. So making healthy cells is pretty simple. Just give your cells everything that they need, and don't give them what they don't need. And that's why heavy metals and toxins are so bad, is they're just micro monkey wrenches throwing into the biological machinery that we have, so it doesn't work properly. And as Rik has famously said, a healthy, clean body fixes itself. And so here's some just wonderful maintenance where you could just take this, and it says on here, here's some of the claims that we can make, because we can't say that this is a panacea and it's going to fix everything, but we can tell people that it does remove heavy metals and other toxins. And clinical stuff shows that it uniquely does it over other products, and that it does it through urine excretion. So it's systemic. The other thing is it helps your immune system, optimizes it, and optimizes pH. All of these things are healthy things to do. Now, I myself, 5 years ago, had some challenges, and that's when I became, just a big fan of this, and I followed it, and I just thought I was able to have a medical reprieve. I didn't have to do a bunch of stuff that they told me I had to do. I escaped it, and I just thought, wow, this is a better, more convenient way. I need to let other people know about that. And so here we are today in this really neat track record with historically, Rik Deitsch goes all the way back to where they first started using words that he coined: micronization, activation, and systemic. This is his domain. He started that, created that market, and continues to be the leader in it with this new product. And it says on here to take it 10 drops twice a day. My thoughts are, if you follow that same amount, I believe you could get a little bit more benefit by having them in your body more continuous and more steady if you divided that into 5 drops 4 times a day. And if you look at some of the challenges that are out there, that has famously become the Marcy dose, which is what I did, is 5 years ago, I took 10 drops every waking hour. So there's plenty of stuff to go around to deal with things that might be awry in the body. That's the beautiful thing. The only limitation is budget. The thing that I love about this is it's a beautiful idea that the ideal protocol, or what you want to do for your body, is all upside and no downside. That if you're working with something, that you come out of it actually healthier than you were before, rather than ravaged. And so this is just really, really exciting stuff. And so here's a wonderful product. Now, along that idea, I was saying that we're a takeout company because technically this is not a supplement. It doesn't supplement anything to your body. It takes things out. Isn't that simple and elegant? Another takeout thing is probably everybody, especially the last few years, being concerned with infection and different things like that, pathogens. There's another takeout product, and we were introduced that as a group a couple of years ago, and we had some really amazing things happen. And when Avini was launched, we came out with a really awesome nano silver, and we had miracles happen. But over time, it degraded and really got concerned. And we were wondering if we were even going to be able to keep this kind of product because it wasn't predictable. And wonderfully, Doug Dickey, vice president of sales for Avini, found a company that helps us with this. It's uniquely, I don't know how they do this, but it's engineered so that there's uniform little balls of silver that are about 200 atoms apiece, and to stabilize them, it has a monocoating of silver oxide. So it just stays right where it is. Doesn't aggregate or dissolute or whatever. Here's the thing. If you do some research on nano silver versus ordinary made colloidal silver, it's scary. First off, that about 70% of all of this kind of stuff that is on the market is actually ionic silver. Now, what's the significance of that? Essentially, we're dealing with Goldilocks. Some stuff is too big, some stuff is too small. There's an ideal sweet spot of around 7 nanometers. That's where the balls are about 200 atoms apiece, where it is able to biologically interact with those bad things, where it actually comes in contact with an example of bacteria in the cell wall of that. It just dumb zips and they spill their guts out. It just is devastating to bad bacteria. However, the friendly bacteria doesn't seem to have any bad effect. So it's very selective. But it's amazing, this perfect size where you get just an inordinate amount of surface area with a very small amount. In fact, one drop of this has over 1 trillion of these little tiny silver balls. Now, regular colloidal silver, the physical shape of it is much bigger, but on the other hand, the uniformity of the shape and size, some of it is ionic, making it electrolytically, again, doing studies where they've actually gone to Amazon, for instance, and bought all of these brands, taken them to the lab and tested them. About 70% of them are ionic. Also, they're not stable. So, wow, putting something into your body that in a way could behave as a heavy metal, it could aggregate in the body, build up to the point where your skin actually shows that you're getting a build. That can't be good. Or ionic, where it actually can get inside the cells and create some metabolic mischief. This is really cool stuff. And they've been able to measure that 100% of it has left the body within about 24 hours. Now, also, it is a colloid. It's not a solution. It's not ionic. And these are fun. So we can go like this and actually show that there's something in there. If you look at that, can you see the little line there? Because it's hitting those little silver balls and creating what they call the Tyndall effect. Pretty cool stuff. And here's some pure water as an example. And if you go like that, in fact, let me do something here. This is a cool thing right here. So here's, you can't really see much as far as a line in there, a little bit. And there's dissolved solids in just about anything. I was experimenting with salt. I don't have any pure salt. It's all sea salt, and there's particles and stuff like that. But here's a cool thing. If you go like this and put a few drops, that's a colloidal suspension also. Let's see what happens. I just put a few drops in there. Oh my goodness. Can you see how that just lit up like crazy? So, wow. Cell Defender is a colloidal suspension. Now, the particles are pretty big, so it settles out and you want to shake it, but it is a suspension. And isn't that fascinating? I'm going to make sure I drink this because it's got the magic stuff in it. So I love these products. So anyway, what's really cool about this is it's all upside, no downside, bad stuff. Pathogens don't like this stuff at all, whether it's a bacteria, a fungus, a big critter, all of the stuff. This is just amazing. And what's really fun, I compare, if you feel just a slight scratch in your throat or your eyes are itchy or something like that, you can just get some of this and there go. And just get that into you. And it reminds me of the Dutch boy that was just walking along and happenstance and wonderfully, as he came by a dike, there was a hole just beginning to happen, but it was so early that he was able to put his finger in the dike and save the village. But imagine if that wasn't seen and water started eroding through that little hole and got bigger and bigger. It'd take more than a finger a day later to save the flooded village. And so what's really fun is you can actually take this off and drink some if you're further along, and that could maybe change everything. But that's probably not something you need to do all the time, but that could be a good tonic if you're concerned. Like they deworm dogs, maybe we might need that too. If you have a pet, it's probably 100% chance that you have stuff as well. And wow, we could do things with these type of products. Now, another thing, going back to eating clay and stuff, this is one of my very favorite products here, and plus fiber. Now, what's really exciting is having an experienced biochemist that was a science officer for other companies. And when he was the director of all of the product development for Rexall, a company that did billions of dollars, those billions of dollars were products that Rik developed. And he said that about half of their volume was a fiber product that he developed. Miracles. And this is one of my very favorite products. And as I mentioned, I was marketing a product that had bentonite in it in the 1980s. So I go way back. In fact, one of the books that we would promote is this book right here, still available. I would refer to this as Dr. Bernard Jensen's Gross Out book, because there's actually colored pictures of things that they've pulled out of people that a lot of us maybe have several pounds of decayed, impacted fecal matter. They're just there. And if you talk to people that work with colonic machines, you hear all kind of scary stuff. Just a few things that come to mind is doing a colonic on a lady and all of this colored flecks came out. I found out when she was in grade school, she used to eat crayons. Wow. Another lady, they found a Barbie doll shoe in her. How long had that been there? Where was that? Oh boy, if there's any weight that you want to lose, it might be impacted stuff. And so get that book if you want to get motivated. But oh my goodness, this is one of the most valuable products that you can take. We just don't get enough fiber. Having dinner some years ago with Betty Kamen, where I first heard of the word FOS, fructooligosaccharides. She was a big pioneer in a lot of special types of fiber. And she made a comment. She said, wherever in the world there's small stools, there's big hospitals, and where there's big stools, there's small hospitals. That essentially, it really is true that death, disease, or health begins in the digestive tract, specifically in the colon. And so we want to have good health there. And one of the most important things that we can do is take a fiber supplement. With modern diet here in America, we just don't get enough fiber. And so this is not just Metamucil or something like this. This is something that's carefully engineered. One of the big things that's really catching on is that a lot of our health is the biome, and we don't want to have what is referred to as dysbiosis, the wrong kind of bugs that are in us. If we're healthy, what's really fascinating is a normal human being, depending on what you read and how big you are and stuff like that, there's somewhere upwards of 40 trillion human cells in the body, but there could be 100 trillion bacterial cells in the body. They're smaller, of course, but that nevertheless, it's several pounds of bugs that are in us. And this is a symbiosis. This is something that's invaluable. They help us digest our food. More than that, they actually create things like B vitamins, but also really complex things like brain neurotransmitters. A majority of them, in instance, are made in the gut and not the brain. Hence, there really is this huge brain gut connection. And this is another book you want to get. Fiber fueled. So much of health is up to having happy bacteria. And so when we eat, we're not just feeding us, we're feeding our friendly bacteria. And so fiber to us is non-nutritive. We don't have the digestive system like a cow to take cellulose or other things and turn into a carbohydrate, but bacteria do. And as an example, one of the things that I think is really amazing is the right kind of bacteria create acid or butyrate, and that becomes food for, as an example, the cell walls. It's good for your brain. It's really good stuff, and it's actually postbiotic created by the right kind of bacteria. But we can get up into other things that are just really amazing to just make the brain work right. And it's all because of having a healthy gut. Immune system, a lot of your immune system lives in the gut. It's an integral part, these bacteria, to our immune system. And so we want to feed them well and keep them happy. If we're not feeding them, they'll die off and they won't come back. What's really cool is this is carefully put together to optimize your biome, make it more diverse, lots of different fibers to feed the right kind of bugs. Just amazing. Just to read this, reduces risk of cardiovascular disease, helps lower cholesterol, stabilizes healthy blood sugar levels, supports a healthy colon and gut, stimulates the growth of healthy bacteria, aids in removal of toxins from the digestive tract. Now, one of the things I'd like to talk about also is let's go back to this wondrous systemic detoxifier, zeolite, making it micron in size. Rik loves this stuff, and as an example, to give you some ideas about this, they use zeolite in everything. It's used all over the place. It's so famous in absorbing bad things that they dump tons of it on Chernobyl. It absorbs radioactive isotopes. It absorbs stink, so it's a part of kitty litter. It's just amazing. But one of the things I think is really wonderful is it really changed the safety of feed animals. Feeding the animals, a lot of times maybe a bag of feed could get a little moisture and some mold could grow in it. And some of the nastiest stuff is aflatoxins from mold. And that could really be a bad thing. And what's really cool is fortifying animal feed with zeolite. It helped protect him from that. But then a lot of the people were thinking, if it absorbs bad stuff, could it be absorbing good stuff and actually compromise the nutrition of the animals? And so they actually did studies, and they found that it actually enhanced, that zeolite seems to potentiate the nutritional values and make everything work better. So what this is, it's a little bit bigger than the micron. So instead of, when you take this going systemic, it remains in the digestive tract. Now, one of the things I think is really interesting about this kind of stuff is, did you know your bile that's excreted by your liver and goes through the gallbladder and all that kind of stuff, which is critical to have good digestion, that it's complex, takes a lot of work, and it gets reabsorbed. I understand about 90% of your bile is reabsorbed. So it just goes around and around and around. So your body doesn't have to make all that stuff over and over again. A lot of the bile component is cholesterol based. And so that's how fiber can actually lower cholesterol, because what happens is that cholesterol and other things is absorbed in the fiber, which is eliminated of the body. And so it didn't get a chance to be recycled and come back. Well, this is the idea of why people ate clay for hundreds of years and all these other things, is the liver, which is a thing to help clean the body, and thousands of different things. We really need our livers because they do so many good things, but a lot of it is helping clean the body. But when that's excreted, it might get reabsorbed and just go around and around and around. And so not just lowering cholesterol by taking fiber, but putting the the intestinal cleanser size cleanoptilolite in it. It works in a way where it's moving along, and it has that electrical traction for the heavy metals that might be down in that area. And so that's really cool. And probably just as an example, in the animal feed, it just potentiates the activity of all of those things in there as well. So that's a big deal. This is an amazing product. Probably my favorite thing I'm hearing over and over again is just this concern that people have with blood sugar. Smoothing that out so you're not hungry, or you don't have too much to just mess up your body. Probably one of the worst things you can do to predict all of these just bad chronic conditions is having elevated blood sugar. And we've had people consistently take this the very next day, if they're measuring that sort of thing, they get better numbers than ever before. So just this is a game changer. You will work better when you do this. The other thing I really like is most of us wouldn't mind losing 5 pounds or so. But the thing that's really cool is you don't have to really do anything different than what you're doing. We recommend if you're eating processed food and garbage and stuff that is cleverly disguised as food, that you eat real food as much as you can. But take this as well. Take it 15 minutes right before you eat, and it'll actually slow the transit time of the food. You'll actually get more out of it, but also it smooths blood sugar. To me, simple sugars, things that have a high glycemic index, it's like throwing a piece of paper on a fire and you go whoosh, and then it's gone. This makes the food more like throwing a log on the fire. And so it just burns more slow and steady. And so this can really help feeling of fullness, not up and down blood sugar. I'm hungry, I need something. It's just a game changer. Along that line, what we've found is a lot to do with weight is when your body takes on these heavy metals and bad things, it doesn't want to deal with it. And so it sequesters it into the fat. And there's really words called obesogens, things that make us want to be fat because the body doesn't want to deal with it. So toxobesity, to really properly address being obese, you need to talk about something to do with getting rid of these heavy metals because they're sequestered there. And the body says, I don't want to deal with this. Leave that fat alone. And we've had people, when they get onto this product, not even consciously thinking about losing weight. It just happens spontaneously because now the body's got those heavy metals out, and so it is less holding on to that and says, okay, we can let it go now. We don't have to deal with it. And so that's amazing. Also, what's really cool is if you take this and smooth out your blood sugar, that could actually help with weight. We've had some really neat miracles happen along that line. And then adding to that, the Trim Science, which comes in 4 different flavors, with a bunch of herbs that just do all sorts of things, like just help us with appetite, the way we metabolize carbohydrates, and just a lot of different things. Taking that as a triad, those 3 things, you can just change your whole game. A couple of other products to talk about. Pretty much all the stuff we have, Rik has added zeolite to. And so Z-immunity, mushrooms are famously great in helping with our immune system. And there's a lot of different mushrooms out there that have different effects. And Rik has settled on about 7. I've worked with a wonderful product that we sold for years, and it was double that, had 14 mushrooms, and it was really, really good. But I'm thinking in my mind, there's only so much stuff that you can stuff in something. And as an example, I heard this idea that the most successful person necessarily didn't read the most books, but they read the best books the most. For example, let's say you had 14 different books and they were all really good. If you read all of those books one time, 14, or what if you had the very best of the 14 that were 7 and you read those twice? I believe that so much power comes from spaced repetition. So reading a better book twice versus twice as many once, it could be better. And I think this is a rough analogy of our 7 mushrooms, having more of a better mushroom. And there's plenty of diversity and synergy coming from 7 that are actually especially grown on substrates, because we are what we eat, but so are mushrooms. And so what they're grown on can affect and potentiate the active principles in those mushrooms. And then growing them in a way so that they compete, and it strengthens those beta glucans and other factors that make them work even better. And then fortifying it with the right kind of clinoptilolite, zeolite, you've got a powerful product. And so some of the things that we could say about this is it's a full spectrum immune complex, acts as a potent antioxidant, aids in detoxifying the body, improves cardiovascular health, aids in lipid stabilization. But I think probably number 1 is just making the immune system work better. If we think in terms of a lot of problems, allergies, different things, that's just an improper immune response. What if you could have a product that actually helps your immune system? The other thing I really like about this is something that you can, and I believe you should, just take all the time. It's not going to overstimulate your immune system like a lot of herbs and other things might do. This is something that just optimizes and just gives you good immune function. So I'm taking this all the time. Let's see, a couple of other things. Okay, I sometimes, to kick things off, just get conversations going, I believe probably the best thing you can really talk about when you're meeting somebody and what do you do is, I'm in the toxic removal business. I specialize in human beings. Thank you, Paul Stowers. That's bound to create some curiosity. So I love that idea right there, and just leading into this. But occasionally, just to have fun, I'll tell people, what do you do? Are you retired now? I said, actually, I'm starting all over again with my encore career. I'm selling snake oil. And they've taken back a little bit. And I talk about my personal experience with another product, and my favorite biochemist, who is an innovator, and he's one of the leading experts in the world of venomous animals. And he works with a lot of different things, but specifically, he's got a big snake farm, and they take Asian cobra venom, and there's a wondrous spectrum of all kinds of interesting things that could be really bad. If you've been bit by a cobra, that would be very, very bad. However, there's a particular, what we could call a neuropeptide, this small little complex protein component that has this wondrous ability that it fits into certain receptors as far as how we perceive pain and regulate and modulate inflammation. And it does it safely and effectively. It's so potent that it's diluted 10,000 to 1. It's denatured. It has no downside whatsoever, but it just fits into these keys and makes things work better as far as pain and inflammation, to the point where there's a huge market. They figure almost half of the population has some degree of chronic pain. What if you could take care of that without the worries of problems? I think we all probably know someone that started out using a prescription pain relief product, and it destroyed their life. It just messed them up really bad. And this is something that has no downside whatsoever. Extremely effective, and yet no downside. Non-toxic, non-addictive, non-steroidal, all of the bad stuff this doesn't have. And as you continue to use it, it appears to actually help nerves work better and better. And you don't even have to worry about habituation, which is where you use something and your body starts tolerating it. And so you get less and less effect, but you're using it more and more. And finally, you have to graduate up to a stronger drug. This, as you use it, it gets better and better. And so you're getting improved results with less use. It comes in 4 different kinds. One is an oral spray, and some people take it preemptively, like if you have regular headaches or different things coming on, you could take that ahead. It's, again, just absolutely no bad effects at all. And the thing I love about this product is it's also topical, so you can put it where it hurts. But we've had over and over again people that have just had miracles where if you're hurting all the time and all of a sudden you're not. I think we've all heard this idea that if something you say, they might forget that. Something you do, people might forget that, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so you come along and maybe they've been hurting for years, and suddenly, sometimes before your eyes, they're not hurting. They'll never forget that. That makes you feel good. You will never forget that either. And so it's wonderful to be able to touch somebody to that degree. All upside, no downside. A couple of other things that we've got. This is an amazing product, and plus energy, and looks a lot like those 5-hour things. This is a big product. All you have to do is go to a truck stop or any place. It just seems like everybody's addicted to this kind of stuff. And rather than a bunch of chemical stimulants and things that just pull you and bounce you around, this is based on a lot of long-time clinical research over in Russia. These are the people that have probably studied what we call adaptogens more than anybody. And so there's some natural herbs that just adaptogens basically help the body cope with stress more effectively. And here's something that they were using with their athletes. They could perform better, but not flunk blood tests because it doesn't change your physiology in bad ways. It just enhances everything. I love it. And a lot of people notice mostly it just makes the brain work better. If you're playing games or physical performance or something, this could really, really help you without the downside of the chemical products. So it's really an amazing product. Valerie, what else have we got? Oh, this is our newest product. And oh my goodness, this comes from the vault. Rik has got a lot of formulas. Who knows what we might be having a year from now. But this was a big product. About 20 years ago, they actually had him going around the world dealing with world-class athletic clubs, making a difference between them winning. Just amazing. And Rik talks about how this goes back to Gatorade, where the Florida Gators, they just seem to perform better. And they had this electrolyte drink and they referred to it as Gatorade. And there's coming off on that. When I first heard of all of this kind of stuff, I was thinking, this is just Kool-Aid, sugar water, artificial flavoring, coloring, put a little salt in it. What's that got to do with it? But listening to Rik and understanding what electrolytes do, wow. And then the book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water, subtitled, You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. Most of us don't have an optimal amount of water in our cells. That's where we need it, not in our gut, but actually hydrating our cells. And proper hydration is critical for optimum physical performance. And when you're actually working really hard, it's hard to keep up as you're perspiring and working hard, drinking the water, and it just kind of hits your gut, has to go through into your intestines and into the blood, and it just doesn't happen quick enough. And what they found is with electrolytes and carbohydrates and water, putting it in the right combination, the right kind of stuff, it actually improves hydration. And on this, we talk about low osmolality, which a lot of the companies that makes this stuff don't really understand. This has the lowest osmolality. What it means essentially is if you take Gatorade, it can have value, but pretty much you can feel it hitting your gut. You take this and your body just takes the whole drink of water. It just comes in more effectively to the point where Rik talks about people just actually doing better, goalies playing the whole game rather than just kind of coming out of exhaustion where they were able to keep up. And so this is a big deal stuff. And like all of Rik's products, other than, let's see, Plus Relief and the Silver, everything else has zeolite, including our new Plus Hydration. So we've got some amazing products. I am excited. It looks like the sun's coming up, but I don't have my shade down. But anyway, the sun is rising. It's a new day in Avini. Just around the corner is 2024. What would you like to do? I recommend go with this growth. Amazing things are about to come packed. And I think one of my favorite ideas is the best way to predict the future is create it. And so much of what we have is we can be active participants in the future and make a difference by just every day sharing this with people. 1 penny, 2 penny, 3 penny, but then all of a sudden $1,000, $2,000, $4,000, or 1,000 people, 2,000 people. It's just really fun to participate in reproductive exponential growth and seize this moment, play a big part in the future, and we can change the world together. So anyway, sure love you guys. And wow, the future is bright. Just look at that window.